I worked the night shift at a small gym on the edge of town. It wasn't a bad job. Most nights were quiet. After midnight, there were usually no customers. Just me, the machines, and the sound of the air conditioning. I had been working there for almost 4 months. Nothing strange had ever happened. At least, not until that night. It was a Thursday, a little after midnight. I was finishing my usual routine, wiping down equipment, checking the locker rooms, making sure everything was locked. The gym felt unusually quiet, even for a late night. I remember looking around and thinking how empty the place felt. Every treadmill was off. Every machine sat perfectly still. There wasn't a single person inside, or so I thought. Around 12:17 a.m., I was cleaning near the weight section when I heard a strange sound, a metallic clank. It sounded like someone had dropped a dumbbell. I immediately looked up. The gym was empty. No one was near the weights. I stood there for a few seconds listening. Nothing. Everything was silent again. I told myself it was probably nothing. Maybe a weight wasn't placed correctly. Maybe something shifted on its own. I finished cleaning and walked away. A few minutes later, it happened again. Clank. This time it was louder, much louder. The sound echoed through the entire gym. I quickly turned toward the weight rack. One of the dumbbells was rolling slowly across the floor. I stared at it, completely confused. There was nobody around. No one could have touched it. Yet somehow, it was moving. I walked over and picked it up. The metal felt ice cold, much colder than it should have been. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. For the first time that night, I felt uneasy. I decided to check the security cameras, just in case someone had somehow entered the building. I walked into the control room and looked at the monitors. Everything appeared normal. The lobby was empty. The locker rooms were empty. The hallways were empty. Then I noticed camera 7. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. A dark shape stood near the treadmills, motionless, almost blending into the shadows. I leaned closer to the screen. The figure didn't move. It just stood there, watching. My heart immediately started beating faster. I grabbed my flashlight and left the control room. If someone was inside the gym after closing time, I needed to find them. I walked toward the treadmill area. Slowly, carefully. The entire gym felt different now. The silence was heavier. The air felt colder. When I reached the treadmills, nobody was there. The area was completely empty, exactly like before. I checked every corner, every row of machines. Nothing. The figure was gone, and that's when things became truly strange. I stood there for a moment, trying to make sense of what I had just seen. Maybe it was a reflection. Maybe the camera had glitched. That was the only explanation I could think of. Still, something didn't feel right. I returned to the control room and checked camera 7 again. The treadmill area was empty. The figure was gone. I let out a nervous laugh. For a second, I thought I had imagined the whole thing. Then I looked at camera 12. My stomach dropped. The same dark figure was standing at the end of a hallway, completely motionless, just staring directly at the camera. I froze. Camera 12 was on the opposite side of the building. There was no way someone could have moved there that quickly, not without passing me, and I hadn't seen anyone. I kept watching the screen. The figure didn't move, not even once. It just stood there, watching, waiting. I grabbed my flashlight again and headed toward the hallway. My footsteps echoed through the empty gym. The closer I got, the more nervous I became. When I reached the hallway, it was empty. Nothing. No person. No shadow. No sign that anyone had ever been there. I checked every room nearby. The storage room, The staff office, even the locker rooms, everything was empty. As I turned to leave, the lights above me flickered. Once, twice. Then everything went dark. For a few seconds, I couldn't see anything. The entire hallway was swallowed by darkness. Then the emergency light switched on. A dim red glow filled the corridor. The atmosphere instantly felt wrong, like I wasn't supposed to be there. I hurried back to the control room. The moment I entered, I looked at the monitors. Every camera was working again, but now the figure appeared on camera 3, closer than before, much closer. My hands started shaking. Whoever this was, or whatever it was, seemed to be moving through the building without being seen. I couldn't stop staring at the screen. Then suddenly, the figure disappeared. Not by walking away, not by turning a corner. It simply vanished. One frame it was there. The next frame, it was gone. I felt a chill run down my spine. For the first time that night, I considered calling the police. Then a loud crash echoed through the gym. The sound was so sudden that I nearly jumped out of my chair. It came from the weight room. I switched to the nearest camera. Several dumbbells were scattered across the floor, as if someone had thrown them. But there was nobody there. The room was empty, completely empty. And that's when I noticed something else. One of the mirrors. There was a dark figure reflected in it, standing behind the camera, watching. The figure was clearly visible in the mirror, standing directly behind the camera, watching. I quickly switched to another camera angle. Nothing. No explanation. I rubbed my eyes and looked back at the screen. The reflection was gone. At that point, I didn't know what to believe, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. At least there, I could watch every camera. For the next few minutes, nothing happened. The cameras showed empty hallways, empty rooms, empty workout areas. A burst of static covered the screen. The image returned a second later. It was standing in the middle of the gym. I couldn't see a face. Not human. I watched as it slowly raised one arm, then pointed directly at the camera. A chill ran through my entire body. The screen suddenly glitched again. When the image returned, seconds later, another camera lost signal. Then another. One by one, every monitor began turning black. 3:32 a.m. Then, every screen went completely black. The room fell silent. 10 long seconds passed. I immediately looked at the cameras. On every camera, every single screen showed the same thing. The same dark figure, standing motionless outside my door. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. Knock. Knock. 3 slow knocks. Coming from the other side of the door. I froze in my chair. Knock. 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 Louder this time. I stared at the monitor, watching. Then something happened that I'll never forget, and smiled. A long, unnatural smile. The control room lights went out. The control room lights went out. Everything around me disappeared into darkness. For a moment, I couldn't see anything. My hands were shaking. I quickly grabbed my flashlight from the desk. The beam cut through the darkness. The room looked empty, but something felt wrong. Very wrong. I pointed the flashlight toward the door. Silence. No knocking. No movement. Nothing. Slowly, I looked back at the monitors. Every screen was black, except one. A single camera was still working. Camera 7, the treadmill area. I stared at the screen. The figure was gone. The room appeared empty. Then suddenly, a face appeared on the monitor, so close to the camera that it filled the entire screen. Pale skin, dark eyes, a twisted smile. I nearly dropped the flashlight. The screen immediately went black again. That's when I heard footsteps. Not outside the room, Inside it, slow, heavy footsteps. Somewhere behind me, I turned around instantly. The flashlight beam shook in my hands. Nothing. The room looked empty, but the footsteps continued. One step, then another. Getting closer, I backed against the wall. My heart was beating so hard it hurt. The footsteps stopped, right in front of me, yet I couldn't see anyone. Then my flashlight flickered. Once, twice, then it went out. The room became completely dark. I didn't wait any longer. I ran. I threw open the control room door and sprinted into the gym. The emergency lights were still glowing red. Every machine cast long shadows across the floor. I ran toward the main exit. The only thing on my mind was getting out. As I passed the mirrors, I glanced at one of them and immediately stopped. My reflection wasn't alone. Something was standing directly behind me. Tall, dark, motionless. I spun around. Nobody was there. But when I looked back at the mirror, the figure was still standing behind my reflection, watching, smiling. I ran faster. The exit door was only a few feet away. Almost there, almost free. Then my phone vibrated. A notification from the gym security system. One new recording available. Recorded at 3:33 a.m. I ignored it. I pushed through the exit door and ran into the parking lot. Cold air hit my face. For the first time all night, I felt safe. I got into my car, locked the doors, and drove away. I never returned to that gym again. The next morning, I quit my job. A few days later, curiosity got the better of me. I opened the recording. The footage showed me running through the gym, exactly as I remembered. Then I noticed something. As I ran past the mirrors, the cameras captured something I never saw. There wasn't one shadow figure. There were dozens of them, standing silently throughout the gym, watching me leave. And in the final frame, one of them looked directly into the camera and smiled. I never watched the footage again. A few months later, the gym closed permanently. Nobody ever explained why. The building still stands there today, empty, silent, forgotten. But sometimes, late at night, I receive a notification from the old security system, a system that should no longer exist. The message is always the same: recording in progress. I've never opened it, and I never will, because deep down, I know something is still inside that gym, watching, waiting, and hoping that one day I'll come back.